Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing I want to talk about today is why Jody Warner is in the news. Jody Warner is a Dallas Assistant District Attorney, and she's in the news today for something that happened in an Uber. Side note, have you ever noticed there's really no story that comes out that starts with a person got in an Uber and then a good thing happens? And I'm not shitting on the service, I love using Uber. It's just there's no story that ever starts with Jody Warner got in an Uber and you'll never guess what happened next. She rescued 10 puppies and gave them to children who wanted them. No, what we see is Jody Warner gets into an Uber. She's picked up by 26-year-old Sean Platt. He says that when he shows up, Warner was intoxicated. Though, of course, for Uber drivers, that's not a very rare thing. They often pick up drunk people. Not trying to drive home drunk? Fantastic. You're being responsible. But that appears to be the end of the good choices Jody makes. Reportedly, as he was driving her home, she became increasingly upset, insisted that he use a different route than the one indicated by the GPS. He then gets confused on how to get to the destination. He says, should I take a left up here? She doesn't respond. Afterwards, she reportedly becomes angry and tells him, quote, you can follow the fucking GPS. They argue back and forth, and he said he had enough when she started cursing at him and calling him names. He stops the car, he ends the ride on the app, and he tells her that she needs to get out. But she refuses. Now at this point, Uber encourages riders and drivers to call the police or 911 if they feel unsafe or find themselves in an uncomfortable situation. So that's what he did, but he also recorded the interaction on the phone, and oh, it does not look good for Jody. Here are some of the highlights.
I'm asking you politely to please step out of my vehicle.
No, because now I'm pissed the f*** off. Either drop me off at my house, or we'll wait for the cops. Because I'm not wrong.
I am waiting for the cops.
Okay, we'll wait for the cops. Jesus Christ. You're a f***ing idiot in that stupid f***ing hat. Jesus Christ, I'll make sure Uber knows what a f***ing joke you are.
Ma'am, please exit.
Ma'am. Shut the f*** up. Well, wait. Oh my God, you're an idiot. You are a legitimate retard. And I want to go home so badly, but you're so stupid. I want the cops to come so that they can f*** you up.
Ma'am, please.
No, man, please. Dude, everything's being recorded. I'm an assistant district attorney, so shut the f*** up. You had the opportunity to take me home. I think this might be kidnapping right now, actually.
And obviously that recording is just part of their interaction. According to Sean, this also happened.
She kept saying she was assistant DA. Said, who are they going to believe, you or me? So I said, you know what, you're kind of right. So I took out my phone and I recorded it. She actually hit me. It was not how I expected my night to go.
Also, according to Platt, when police arrived, he was afraid he was going to be arrested. He says when the cops got there, Jody said, can I speak with you to one of the officers? He pulled her aside to have a conversation. He then says the cops said, you good? I said, I guess so. I should have said, no, I'm not good. It was intimidating. I was intimidated. Platt did not press charges, and he says Jody left with the officer in the police car. So this story blows up. There's a lot of backlash. After facing some criticism, the police department then issued a statement about this incident, saying after reviewing this incident and speaking with the complainant who called 911, the Dallas Police Department has determined that the officer's involvement was within departmental policies and procedures. Any further information relating to the incident should be directed to the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. There are no criminal charges filed relating to this incident. Platt also reported this incident to Uber, and Uber issued the statement, we expect riders to treat drivers with respect. This rider has been removed from the app while we continue to look into this incident. Then we had Dallas County District Attorney Faith Johnson announcing on Facebook that she decided to terminate Warner. And that's a pretty big deal because Jody had been working as a prosecutor for the DA's office for 6 years. Faith Johnson writing, after careful consideration and thorough investigation, I have decided to terminate Miss Warner. Although criminal charges have not been filed, her behavior is contrary to this office's core principle of integrity, and it will not be tolerated. As public servants, we represent the people of Dallas County and are examples of justice, professionalism, and ethical behavior both inside and outside the courtroom. And then we got to the part of the story that you know is coming if you've ever seen stories like this in the past. Jody Warner held a news conference where she apologized and cried.
Well, I just want to apologize for my language to the district attorney's office. I'm sorry. For embarrassing the office that I love very much and respect very much. I embarrassed my family. I embarrassed myself. That is not who I am. I can tell you that not everything he said was true. I never touched him. I never belittled him for being an Uber driver. That just didn't happen. One of my best friends is signed up for Uber and I was her first ride. I'm not someone that thinks I'm above anyone. You get in like a fight or flight mode, and I think any prosecutor would tell you that we're usually going to get into fight mode. I was wrong. I don't know who that gentleman is. No one deserves to be spoken to that way. But I was in an uncomfortable situation and I reacted, and trust me, I would do anything to react differently. That's just not who I am.
So that was her response, and ultimately where I land on that is I feel like her words do fall short. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, that's not me. They had some drinks, they did some things, but that's not me. Yes, it is 100% that is you. As a prosecutor, most likely she has the knowledge, that's not me, I was drinking is not a valid defense. If that's not the real me, I was intoxicated was a valid defense, our prison system would be at what, quarter capacity? Also, I love the Uber modifier she put on the I can't be racist, I have black friends part. One of my best friends drives Uber. And so just plainly put, being drunk does not excuse your actions. You made the choice to drink. But as of right now, that's where the story ends. I say good on the DA's office for showing that there is accountability. And I guess if there is a lesson to be learned here, it's don't be a dick, especially because we live in a time where everyone has a recording device. I mean, come on. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome brought to you by ShopDeFranco.com. That, of course, is a place where you can get all our shirts, hoodies, you get some of the pillows that we have in the background. I told them no one's going to buy it, but you can now get a DeFranco 2024 flag for your home. Or if you just want some shirts and hoodies and it also supports the show, ShopDeFranco.com. And the first bit of awesome is we essentially got a Deadpool short as well as a teaser for Deadpool 2. And just from the little bit they showed, I say, yes, yes, my body is ready, Ryan Reynolds, yes. How many people do you think in this world have said that before or thought that before? Do you think it is more people than not? Side note, Ryan Reynolds is actually my favorite actor of all time ever. Been on the Reynolds train since Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, don't at me. Then Jimmy Kimmel gave us Larry David outtakes. This is from the Mean Tweets about Jimmy Kimmel video and segment. And we had some Pink Carpool Karaoke. Also a great animated video on why you should not fly Spirit Airlines. Side note, JetBlue for life. JetBlue, you can at me. Thank you for providing in-flight internet. That is not the worst thing ever. And if you want to see the full version to everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. Then very briefly, let's talk about an update around that Zoella story we covered yesterday. If you didn't see it, massive YouTuber Zoella put out a 12-day advent calendar. It cost people 50 pounds. Many people massively dislike the product. Many calling it a ripoff, a scam, an exploitation of her fans because everything that was in it was very inexpensive and underwhelming. And the most recent update is Zoella responded in a video. In it, she echoes what her lifestyle brand tweeted the other day. Essentially that she only had creative control, not control over price. Said it's obvious the retailer made the wrong decision. She apologizes. And in general, that video in response was pretty well received. It seemed most of her fans saw it as just a temporary lapse in judgment. But then this story took a very familiar turn. It seems more and more commonplace. Someone pops up in the news, there's a lot of press around them, and then people start going through that person's social history and just finding anything offensive or wrong they've ever done. And that's exactly what happened with Zoella yesterday. One user tweeting, I find it so funny how Zoella has managed to rebrand herself as some kind of sweet, unproblematic saint. Then sharing many screenshots of her tweets, some that go back to 2009. Why are these clothes so expensive? Because they're designer, you tramp. That there in your hand is a dress worth over 2,000 pounds, haha. Commenting on someone's image, she wrote, haha, orange, no top lip. Yeah, she's ugly. It's like everyone feels sorry for her. She could have kept her legs shut. Excuse my choice of words, haha. Why did that fat chav go and stand next to him? Was she George's wingman? She needs to get dressed, to be honest. LOL skank attack. People didn't pay money to vote for Gillian to cop out like a fat kid at a swimming lesson on their period. Then there's some stuff where she's talking about fatties eating burgers, and there's some kind of in the closet references. And so as you'd expect, of course, people started sharing all of these, people calling her classist, homophobic, that she's a fat shamer. And then she responded. I've seen a few of my old tweets from 7 to 8 years ago floating around, which I have now deleted, using words like chav, skank, and other words I wouldn't use now as part of my language, and a lot of them were taken out of context referring to TV shows, but I would never say those things now, and I'm sorry if I have offended anyone. That was not my intention. Obviously, that is not who I am today, and I'd like to think I'm a little older and wiser. I'm not perfect, and I've never claimed to be. I'm only human. Now that statement dabbles very close to that's not who I am, but we are talking about a different situation here than the Uber story. That was a story of that's not who I am, I was drinking, I was intoxicated, versus that's not who I am today because 8 to 10 years have passed. That I personally feel like is more understandable. I mean, if you look through my past, there are times in my past I was a shitty, stupid human being, right? It's not rare for someone to try to delegitimize a very valid point and argument I have now by showing something I filmed like 8 years ago. And when people show those things, I'll be the first person to say, yeah, I was being really fucking stupid, insensitive, problematic. But also when I see those things from years ago, I end up feeling pride. I've come so far, I feel like it's a great example of how people can grow. And so when I look to the Zoella situation, sure, could this be an example of someone being exposed? Sure, but it's also very likely that that person has grown from when they posted that other stuff. That they evolved, they became a different person, hopefully a better person. It kind of comes down to the question of, from stories like this, is our goal to educate, to learn, to grow, or to just destroy? Even looking back to the situation with Jodi, hopefully the goal there is that we all learn and grow. There is a lesson there, obviously, because it's all happening in the now. Jodi has the most painful lesson of all. And I find personally that's something that I've been trying to work on for years. What is the appropriate reaction and response to stories? And I have this little thing that I've been dabbling with called the Jake Paul test. Essentially, when a story like this happens, try to imagine it from two different viewpoints. What if the main focal point of the story, instead of it being Zoella, was insert your favorite YouTuber? And then also, what would it be if it was Jake Paul? Right? Like, it makes me think of all those stories that happened with PewDiePie over the past year and a half. What would the community reaction have been if you replaced Felix with Jake Paul? I don't know, just some things that have been bouncing around in my head. That said, I of course would love to know your response to all of this. Let me know in those comments down below. Then, in one of the weirder and more unexpected stories today, Cards Against Humanity, you know, the fun card game, that company is looking to fight Donald Trump. Cards Against Humanity writing on their site, it's 2017 and the government is being run by a toilet. We have no choice. Cards Against Humanity is going to save America. There's no time for questions. Now is the time to act. You give us $15 and we'll send 6 America-saving surprises right to your doorstep. It will be fun, it will be weird, and if you voted for Trump, you might want to sit this one out. And if all of a sudden you got excited hearing that, well, it's too late. They already sold out. Okay, so what is it that they're going to do with the money? Well, as they explain on their site, Donald Trump is a preposterous golem who is afraid of Mexicans. He is so afraid that he wants to build a $20 billion wall that everyone knows will accomplish nothing. So we've purchased a plot of vacant land on the border and retained a law firm specializing in eminent domain to make it as time-consuming and expensive as possible for the wall to get built. On day one, all Cards Against Humanity Saves America recipients will get an illustrated map of the land, a certificate of our promise to fight the wall, some new cards, and a few other surprises. Damn, that is not what I expected from Cards Against Humanity. I mean, they've done silly gags in the past where they sold actual bullshit or people donated money to dig a hole. Didn't go anywhere. It was literally called the Holiday Hole to Nowhere. But in a climate where, I mean, we were talking about it Monday, advertisers are pulling their money, pulling their spots back. Specifically, we were talking about Sean Hannity. People starting boycotts, customers feeling alienated. I feel like a lot of companies are just trying to be quiet, ride everything out. And then here comes Cards Against Humanity kind of just throwing their dick out on the table. Also, they are next level unapologetic about this. On their FAQ, they have the question, I don't like that you're getting political. Why don't you just stick to card games? Their official response is, why don't you stick to seeing how many Hot Wheels cars you can fit up your asshole? Okay, so they're all in. And so a question to you, do you love this move? Do you hate this move? Are you gonna be burning your Cards Against Humanity? Are you gonna be buying 20 packs? I'm just fascinated to see what the fallout from what is a political statement, but also kind of a promotional tool. So yeah. And then let's talk about that crazy shooting that happened in Rancho Tehama yesterday. It's a rural community in Northern California. The shooter went on a rampage for around 45 minutes. Reportedly, he began by killing 2 of his neighbors, then he stole a truck. The shooter then began to drive in the direction of the town's elementary school while shooting at people randomly. He then arrived at the school while the parents were still dropping off their children. And according to eyewitness accounts, it seems like he was just trying to cause as much loss of life and damage as possible. One parent, Sarah Gonzalez, saying, he pretty much stopped me and shot at me 3 times through his windshield. The shooter then reportedly attempted to get into the school, but luckily school officials heard gunshots. They locked the school down. According to Tehama County Assistant Sheriff Phil Johnston, the quick action of those school officials, there is no doubt in my mind, saved countless lives. Now, despite not being able to enter, the shooter still fired around 30 rounds in 6 minutes. Many of those he fired into the school. One child was shot in the school, another was shot in a vehicle. The shooter then left that scene. A short time later, officers rammed the car he was driving. He opened fire, and the shooter was then killed. And law enforcement said afterwards they found a semi-automatic rifle and 2 handguns on him. And so when all was said and done, the rampage ended with 7 crime scenes, 5 dead, which includes the shooter, and 10 others injured. And initially there were reports that multiple children were dead. It was later revealed that was not the case. There were children injured, but not killed. So what do we know about the shooter? And also a note here, in situations like this where you have a mass shooter, a mass murderer, and someone's not actively seeking them, I don't show their names, I don't show their picture, I don't want to add to their infamy, but we can still talk about the how, the why, the when. So we know that he was known to police. He was actually out on bail at that time for assaulting one of his neighbors that he ended up killing in his rampage. He'd been charged with assault in January, and the neighbor had taken out a restraining order against him. The shooter's mother told reporters that he was feuding with the neighbors. Reportedly, he suspected them of cooking methamphetamine. She also reportedly posted the $160,000 bail for his assault charge. Also reportedly, his neighbors had been complaining to the police about his shooting, but according to reports, when neighbors would complain to the police, they'd be referred to the Homeowners Association. But then Juan Carvez, the president of the Homeowners Association, he said the sheriff wouldn't do anything about it. The suspect's sister also said that he had no business owning a firearm, adding that he had been struggling with mental illness his entire life and sometimes had a violent temper. Also, according to the suspect's mother, they had a phone call on Monday. He reportedly said, "Mom, it's all over now. I have done everything I could do, and I am fighting against everyone who lives in this area." And as of right now, that's all we know. There is currently an investigation taking place. And actually, last second update to this story, new information has since come out. Reportedly, there was another victim. It was the suspect's wife who law enforcement said was killed on Monday.
He had literally cut a hole in his floor. We're confident that he murdered her, shot her at some point, probably late Monday, and literally just put her body in the floor and covered it up.
And there's also an update that one of the children that was shot is now in critical condition. When I get a story like this, it's always hard to figure out how to end it. We want to find out more about motive. We want to look further into how someone who seems so incredibly messed up, how they are able to have firearms, a monster that would shoot indiscriminately at random strangers and children. And the only thing I can think of is to just say I'm so thankful for the law enforcement that were able to stop him after the fact. And also to point out that those school officials who made sure they locked down the school, they are heroes. There's no no doubt in my mind that them being prepared and taking that action saved countless lives. And I feel like just for me, I have to focus on those people because everything else in the world sometimes makes you want to burn the whole thing down and start over. But then you see the actions and the stories of these heroes and you feel a little sun on your face in a very dark world. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, if you like this video, you like what I try and do on this channel, you want to support independent media, go sign up, become a member of DeFrancoElite.com. Also remember, if you missed yesterday's Philip DeFranco show, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to watch the newest behind the scenes vlog, click or tap right there to watch that. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.